Hey guys, welcome. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about annotating. I really want to get you guys started on the right foot so that you can be successful not only in my class with my assignments or my reading choices that I give you, but also on the state test and other classes and far beyond. So we're going to go over annotating a little bit because obviously annotating is all about breaking down text, and when you're in English class you got to do a lot of reading. So it's a good thing that we get started with breaking down text so we can understand them so that we can move on from there. The first thing that you guys should have done if you're watching this video, you should have done the first two activities on the Jamboard, which is kind of like Google Slides. That's pretty easy to use and you should be able to work that pretty smoothly. Add your sticky notes, make sure you put your name on stuff, and move those around. If you haven't done that already, go ahead and go do that first and then come back and meet me here. So if you've already done that, you should kind of have an idea on, completing that bell work, which had the question to kind of see what you thought annotating was. You should have gone over what you think annotating should include, and you should also have started to put a list together with your classmates. So now you're here trying to get a little extra information to go over with me. So that's where we all should be. If you're not, again, go back and do the first two slides on Jamboard. But before we get into annotating and what all that looks like, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between summarizing and analyzing, because there is a huge difference, and I find that students, particularly coming into my class, struggle a little bit with this concept. So summarizing is going to be basic stuff that is not changeable. It's just the facts. It is what it is. So summary information is going to be the title of the text, what the text is about, who wrote the text. There are certain things that are just not changeable. It's just information you can pull out of the text, and it is what it is. The analyzing, on the other hand, is when you take that information and you say something about it. That's when you come into the picture. Summarizing is all about the text itself. Analyzing brings you into the picture. So we need to get beyond summarizing, which helps us, but it doesn't get us where we need to be. We need to be moving to analyzing, where we bring ourselves into the text and we can really give our opinions based on what we are reading. To do that, I think we're going to start with the W's. So we should all have an idea what W's already are. I'm going to go ahead and write those up on the board for you. So what, of course, is going to be our first one. And I'm going to go ahead and put when and where together. We have who. And here, who, we're going to use that times 2. There's going to be 2 questions that you want to attach with who. Then we also have why and how. Yes, I know how doesn't start with a W, but you know it goes with the said, so don't start. But we have these questions, and they pretty much will give us all the information we need to know about any given text. And it will help you answer those questions better on state testing, on cold reads, regular test in my class, test in other classes. If you're answering these things about a text, you're good to go. So let's go ahead and get started with our summary type skills. So that is going to be this side. These are going to be primarily our summary type skills. All right. So we first have what. So literally, what is the text about? What is the content? What is the topic? So the subject or topic of any given text. Then we have when and where. When and where I normally call occasion. Okay, so the when and where of something is also known as the occasion. I think I spelled that right. I know, an English teacher who can't spell, the humor. But anyway, so when and where is all about the author of the text. It's not about characters in a text, it's all about the author of a text. So when is this person writing? When are they writing about? Where are they from? What kind of background do they have? because these two things, guys, the situation, the historical context around which this person, this author is writing, will impact the way that they write. So for us to look at these parts of their when and where, when they're writing, where they're writing, is going to help us more with this analysis side. So think about it as historical context. So literally, what kind of history is connected with that text? Which can be, again, a very important point, and it can explain a lot on this analysis side, which we're going to get to here in a second. Our next question is who. So who is a two-part question. So first question is, who is the writer? So who's the author of the text? Your second question is going to be both a summary question and an analysis question. Simply because the second part of this question, who is it to? Who is the author writing to? Who is the audience? So audience seems like a pretty straightforward question. Everybody, whoever's reading it is the audience. Yes and no. So technically, are we the audience? Yes. Are we necessarily the audience the author had in mind? No. So for example, if we are reading a presidential speech from Abraham Lincoln, we weren't born yet. We weren't thought about being born yet. So is Lincoln really talking to us? Are we his audience? Are we the people he is trying to talk to? No. So we are in the audience, but we're not the intended audience. We're not the people who were originally thought about when the text was being created. Which is going to go back to the historical context, which is going to go back to the subject of the text, how it's being, then of course how that subject is being presented, which is what we're going to get to on the analysis portion. So analysis, on the other hand, let me grab another marker. Our analysis section is going to be a little bit different. So analysis is really going to be all about you bringing your opinions and your thoughts to the text based on these things. So sometimes you're going to have to think about who the audience could be. It may not directly say it in the text, it could be a particular person. So I'll add who over here, real small. Just think about that as like an extra who. So it's still this audience. Sometimes it's stated, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's summary because it's directly stated. Sometimes it's not. You have to kind of interpret based on what you know from the summary portions or the basic factual stuff. Why is the purpose of the text? So why is the author writing? Why are they writing? Are they writing to persuade you of something? Are they writing to inform you that, I don't know, anything? They're trying to inform you of something rather than, like I am now, I'm trying to inform you of things rather than trying to persuade you, for example. I'm trying to inform you of this information. I can't necessarily persuade you, but it'd be a good idea to use this. So why is going to be that purpose? What's the intention of the author? Then we have how. Now, how is going to be the most complicated on the board right now, simply because it's a lot. If you look on your annotation guide that I sent home with you, which is dry erase marker friendly, you can actually write on this and erase it, guys, with dry erase markers. That's why I laminated it for you and sent it home so you could use it at home. There is a digital copy as well on the first aid materials in case you lose it or need another copy for whatever reason. If you look at the first four sections, those are the ones we've just covered. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. The last one is how. And as you can see, it's the longest section on there because it is a lot of parts. So how, what I mean by how is, how did the author put the text together? Did they use devices? So did they use literary devices like similes, did they use metaphors? Did they use apostrophes? What did they use to create that text, device-wise? And of course, literary devices are going to be with fiction. And then we're going to have also what are known as rhetorical devices, which go with nonfiction. All these devices are, guys, whether they're literary or rhetorical, are tools. They're the author's tools that they use to convey all this other information to you. All right, so they can use these literary or rhetorical devices, which are going to be like word choice, or similes and metaphors, personification, characterization, all those good things. And I will be providing, with our first unit, I'm going to get you guys a copy of a basic, very basic list of some literary and rhetorical devices. Are those all of them? Obviously not, but it's a good place to start, and it'll have the terms, a definition, and probably an example. But remember, literary goes with fiction, rhetorical goes with nonfiction. Fictional texts are fake, non-fictional texts are real. So it can be devices. It can also be tone. It can be the style of the author's writing. It could be the structure of the author's writing. And we are going to look at how a little bit more closely, probably the end of, or the beginning of next week. So week 2, beginning of next week, we'll definitely be looking at how a little bit more closely, as well as theme. But I left theme off of the video for today because that's a whole nother ballgame. But I felt like you guys should at least be introduced to how first for right now, and I'll get you a more in-depth video when we get to it next week. So it can be any of these things and so much more. If you need a little bit of guidance, guys, again, go to your annotation guide. It's there for you. If you're struggling to find good tone words other than happy, sad, mad, I've already provided that for you too. We're going to start with what are called abstract concepts or abstract ideas. So something that's abstract, guys, is something you can't touch. So, for example, love. Love is not something you can touch. I can't touch the love. I can touch someone I love. I can touch something I love, but I can't actually touch the idea of love. So those abstract concepts are compared to the concrete things. So like abstract would be love, concrete would be a human. I can touch a human, concrete. I can't touch love, it's abstract. So those abstract words, those feeling words, are going to be good words to use for those tone words. And then you can always use those tone words that are those abstract concepts to help you develop a theme. And themes, which I'm going to show you guys a little bit later, are going to be great thesis statements if you do them correctly. So we're going to have a whole separate video for theme, and I am going to do an additional video for how. And if you guys have any additional questions about any of this so far, I will definitely be getting to you guys with some refreshers, some reviews. So please come talk to me about any questions. But before we get any further, there's one more thing I want to give you guys. So we have all this stuff, all this information. And you should, again, have already done the first 2 slides on your Jamboard PowerPoint type thing. And hopefully some of these ideas came up, and probably some other ones, and I'm sure they were fantastic ideas. But let's see what I would do. And you guys can compare, contrast yours. We'll talk about it, because I will definitely be back with feedback very, very soon after those are completed. Sorry guys, just want to get one more color for you so you can see everything in a different color. All right, so if I were to make a list based on all this stuff that I presented to you, and I'm sure the wonderful suggestions that you've already left me on Jamboard, there's a couple of things we probably need to think about. First of all, when you read, you should probably think about the vocabulary, right? So the first read through, you need to be thinking about the vocabulary. So as you read, circle words you don't know, underline them, highlight them. The world is your playground. However you want to note that you don't understand that word, make a note. And is it okay if you have more than somebody else? Yes, that is okay. This is how we learn. But we have to take the initiative to look those words up. Now, what I do suggest, sorry about that, guys. What I do suggest is not to use a dictionary. I suggest that you use a thesaurus. Replace the word rather than write a whole definition, because it's really hard to read a sentence with the definition of another word in it. Just replace the word with a word you're more familiar with. It helps you learn the new word, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the text is about to help you do that what. Because you have to understand the words in order to talk about the actual concept itself. Second thing you want to do is talk about a summary. And I'm talking like short, 1 sentence, 10 words summary. Yes, 10 words, not 11 words, not 9 words, not 6 words, not 42 words, 10. I'm gonna tell you why. Because think about the fact that you probably read a lot of things last year. How many do you remember? Maybe 1, maybe 2, if you're lucky. If you have a brain like me, 0. Your goldfish brain just makes it disappear. So I like to put summaries on my text, and I encourage you guys to do the same thing, because if you ever have to go back to that text for any reason, you're going to read a lot of things in my class. It's good to have a summary to help you go back and say, okay, let me go read my summary. This is what this text was about. And then you can kind of like jog your memory. You won't have to do as much heavy lifting. You won't have to reread the whole thing necessarily if you take good notes. This is going to be especially helpful when you start writing essays, guys, so keep that in mind, and potentially a test or 2. So our third step. So you're going to look for vocabulary, talking about your subject. Your subject might be pretty similar to your summary as well. Just depends how you write it. Third thing you're definitely going to want to start talking about is all these things I just went over. Your W's. Which, as the semester goes on, guys, I am going to change the W's into the acronym SOAPSTONE, which I'm sure some of you have heard of already. So SOAPSTONE: subject, occasion, audience, purpose, and tone. And what I use is SOAPSTONE Plus. And the plus sign is going to be all these extra things that How kind of encompasses already. But it kind of helps your brain break that stuff down a little bit more if you remember that it has a plus. So at this point, you've already looked up the words. You're able to tell me what the text is about. You're able to tell me how the author is impacted by their historical context. You're able to tell me who the author is and their audience. You're able to tell me their purpose, and you're kind of talking to me about how they're developing that. And one important thing to do is always to start thinking about these devices. So the third thing is going to be to look for devices. It doesn't have to be every device, but depending on the assignment, 3 to 5 couldn't hurt. So at first I'm just going to have you guys label them. After a while I am going to, boost the difficulty a little bit. So start looking for those devices now, help yourself. And I, again, am going to give you a little something to help you with those devices. So remember, rhetorical and literary, they can be the same types of devices. But again, it depends on if you're reading a fictional text or a nonfiction text. And of course, if you don't know the difference, rewind. And if you still have trouble, ask me in an email, group me, have a Google Meet with me. Whatever you got to do, ask your questions. Remember, I am big on questions. Please ask if you have them. And then that leaves us with our last and final step for now. Things get more complicated. Theme. So I will ask you guys to write themes. Not for this particular activity, not for this first text, not even for the second text. But I will have a whole separate video for how, which we're going to talk about with our second text, and more explicitly with theme with our third text, which we're going to cover our first text this week at the end of the week. If you go back to your Jamboard slides, the third slide tells you to go look at the Two Kinds text by Amy Tan and start doing some of these things. I want you to see if your list functions well. If you need to use some of the strategies from your annotation guide, have at it. If you want to try this out, have at it. If you want to try to, do a little something with some of those, have at it. It's your business until it's my business on Friday. Because remember, you have to post 2 of your annotations. I don't care what annotations they are. Now, if you're really going to give me a summary and 2 vocabulary words, I disapprove. I'll allow it, I guess. Maybe. If I'm feeling like it. Maybe. Try to stick here-ish. 3 and 4 would be nice. Unless you have another annotation like a comment or a question or something that's really good and you're just like, man, I really want Miss Jenkins to see this. Let me see it. I'd love to see it. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up with you for now, guys. This is just some basic stuff. Remember, we are gonna have a separate video for how and theme, just because I feel like they need a little bit more oomph behind them. So we are gonna practice those more heavily with additional texts. So again, please get in contact with me if you have additional questions. Remember, all assignments are due Friday by midnight. Remember to check in every day with your bell work by midnight on that day. So that everything will open at 7 in the morning and things will close at midnight the day they are due. Again, if there's any additional questions, talk to me, reach out. If you're feeling overwhelmed already, unlikely, but let me know. I'm here to help, and I am very excited to get to work with you guys.